Yeah, so Jo, again, she's been with the GBHC from the beginning, been with GBHC Friends as well, and most of you would have seen her on the live. To explain the project and the thoughts behind it, and it's developed quite a lot since that live, hasn't it, Jo?
It's certainly
which you're gonna explain, and yeah, I shall hand over to you now. Thank you.
Thanks, Judith. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just outline very quickly how this evening's going to work, and the sort of things that we're going to do, and there is going to be a Q&A session towards the end of this event, and so if you have any questions that you think of as we're going along that you might want to ask any of us, then please put them in the chat, and Judith and Derek will keep a note of those questions, and we'll come back to them at the Q&A session. So if you've got, as I said, any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And the way that the evening is going to work is that I'm going to start off by showing you a couple of very short films. The first one is only about 2 minutes, and the second one's about 5 minutes. And that's to give you an idea of Holocaust Memorial Day, what it's about, and that actually the project that we will all be working together on is one project in really a whole series across the country and internationally to mark Holocaust Memorial Day. So it's to give you an idea that we're actually going to be part of something bigger, which is great. But obviously do bear in mind that the two films that we're showing were made pre-COVID. So obviously they talk about things that, you know, in 2021 are not going to be able to happen. It talks about, you know, everyone getting together in town halls and schools and churches and all sort of whatever. Obviously that's not going to be happening in 2021, but it's just to give you an idea of what we're part of, a small cog in a large event. And then we're going to talk about the music itself, and I'm absolutely delighted. We weren't expecting this, but it's a bit of a treat. Polina Shepherd has joined us this evening, so she is here. Judith, I don't know if you can just briefly spotlight so she can wave at people. So she's joined us, and she's going to talk very briefly about the actual music itself when we get to that part of the evening. So there's Polina. So she's joining us this evening. So thank you, Polina. It's an absolute honour to have you here. And we will welcome you to talk a little bit about the music after we've shown the couple of films. And then Sandra is going to very briefly talk to you about the language that we're going to be singing in. She's going to be talking about Yiddish, how it relates, the history of the language, and she's also going to read to you the English words again of the song, and then she's also going to read it all out in Yiddish as well. So that'd be quite nice for everyone to hear. And then we're going to talk about how the whole thing's going to work. So what the schedule's going to look like, what the sort of plans we have, the ideas we have for how the video is going to look and how it's all going to work. So we're going to go through all of that. And then Judith's going to talk about the wonderfully delicate subject of money. So I like to give Judith the awkward conversation. So that's going to be Judith. And then we're going to open the floor to questions. So as I said, do put any of your questions that you have in the chat. And then we're going to finish with a 10-minute film. And the reason we're finishing with this film, and there won't be, and the Zoom meeting will finish absolutely after the film ends, is because it's a film about how we learn from the past, and it's about the various genocides that have taken place. And it's a very emotional film. We would fully understand if people at that point, you know, perhaps leave the meeting and you perhaps watch it later, you know, back when you on the recording. But we're not going to have any conversation after that film because it's sort of emotional, and it's the sort of thing that I think that everybody will want to sort of just go away and reflect on and think about. So don't be alarmed when the meeting finishes immediately after the film is shown. But it's just to give you an idea of what we're commemorating. So that's going to be right at the end. So That's enough me talking. So the first thing I'm going to do, and hopefully for those of you that watched my dreadful Facebook Live, I'm going to be a lot more technical than I was on that one. I'm going to do a screen share. There we go. And I'm going to show the first film, which is the CEO of the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, who's going to talk a little bit about Holocaust Memorial Day.
Hello, I'm Olivia Marks-Waldman, Chief Executive of the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, and I'm delighted you're attending this event. You are taking part in one of thousands of activities taking place across the UK to mark Holocaust Memorial Day in schools, prisons, libraries, and civic ceremonies. Holocaust Memorial Day is an international day of remembrance to commemorate the 6 million Jews who were murdered in the Holocaust, and the millions more murdered under Nazi persecution and in the genocides that followed in Cambodia, Rwanda, Bosnia, and Darfur. The 27th of January is the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the most notorious concentration and extermination camp. Together, we bear witness for all those who were murdered, and we honor the survivors of those regimes and all those whose lives were changed beyond recognition. And there is still much to do to make sure we can live in a world that is free from identity-based persecution and hostility. By the end of this event, I hope that you will all know more about what happened in the past, and that you will understand the impact that it had on the individuals who were persecuted, and that you will go on to take action. You can find more at our website on hmd.org.uk. I will leave you with the words of Sir Nicholas Winton, who rescued 669 children from Nazi-occupied Europe. He said, "Do not be content in your life just to do no wrong. Be prepared every day to try and do some good." Thank you for taking part in Holocaust Memorial Day and for taking the time to learn from genocide for a better future.
Lovely. So I'm now just going to share with you the film just about the sort of projects that normally take place.
We are in the borough of Wigan and Lee, and we have been performing for the 19th year our Holocaust Memorial Day. It has been very important for us as a group of people, and young people in the borough in particular. They've been learning about the Holocaust for many years, and they take part every year in drama, dance, music, and that's allowed them to actually understand about the discrimination a lot better. I felt that if we went into a public shopping centre with a space like this, that we would take the message of the Holocaust out to new people that have not really found out about it before.
I think it's important everyone, like different people, old and young, work together, because we can all like learn from each other and different experiences, and the youths can learn from the elderly.
So to be part of a bigger picture, and not just in Britain but across the world, I think that is special.
We're here in Cardiff today to commemorate the Holocaust Memorial Day. You're here with the Welsh Muslim Cultural Foundation. For the past 3 years, we've been making a point of commemorating this very special day. We then had a reading of the Holocaust Memorial Day prayer in English and Welsh by 2 of our young people from the Muslim community. We need to be doing something actively about it. No more being bystanders, it's actually collectively standing up together, challenging hate, challenging prejudice, and actually more importantly, standing up for people who don't have the power to do so.
Events like this can really help the community to come together as one and think about how we've progressed maybe and to stop these sort of stuff from repeating itself.
This the St Mungo's Museum of Religious Life and Art, which is a multi-faith museum where we work with secondary school pupils to develop a workshop. The secondary school pupils would present to primary school pupils who are invited from their catchment area. In the afternoon, there would be invited dignitaries and guests.
3 schools came together and planned this event in September. We've been working on teaching the kids workshops, which is actually going on now, which is friendship bracelets and then a drama workshop.
It's been really heartfelt for all of us because we knew about the Holocaust, but when we learn it in detail, you realise the horror, and it really does, it impacts you. Think how lucky you are to be alive in this generation, rather if you were in Poland at that time, you could have been killed just for being different.
We're in the Reading Civic offices and we have been at a wonderful evening of prayer, reflection, symbolism, music, where we've brought together representatives of the faith communities, a multi-age, intergenerational group of people from different parts of Reading and different parts of the community to reflect together on what the Holocaust and the genocide have meant for us as human beings.
If the United Nations had said in 1948, never 45, never again, and these things are still going on, then there is a reason for us to come together and try to promote a better understanding of our different communities, avoid making the same mistakes.
We stand together. We do it for the people who are here now. They need to remember so they can spot it happening in the future.
Late 2015, I was invited to attend a Holocaust Day Memorial Trust event in Belfast. What they were looking to do was to run events inside each one of our prisons. And I began to think, well, how much better would it be if the prison population was actively involved, so the people that we care and the people that we look after understood the message by being part of it.
Everything had to be accurate, everything had to be 100% right, 100% correct. And then we came up with the idea, in this room you see around me, is for us to handwrite the names of the people who died.
We thought it was important to get the message out to young people about the events of the Holocaust, the importance of remembering, to try to make young people to think differently, to make better decisions, to make stronger decisions about their own lives and to make them better citizens.
It was very, very worthwhile and it changed my life for good. So I'm so glad I took part in it, so I'm being honest.
So that's just a couple of films just to show you that we will get immersed in our project and we'll feel very kind of the group that we're used to being, but we're actually going to be part of something much bigger, which I think is very exciting and very worthwhile. So that's just a little bit of introduction about Holocaust Memorial Day. So now we're going to talk about the music. So I'm going to pull up there we go. So here we go. So this is the sheet music. And Polina, I would love to at this point invite you to just talk very briefly about this piece of music.
Hello, can you hear me, right? I'm here?
Yes, lovely, thank you.
So this is a lovely piece of music. The music is composed by a wonderful contemporary Yiddish singer who now lives in Israel, Chava Alberstein. And it was composed, I think, around 10 years ago, maybe more, but it got recorded on a CD by the kind of one of the leading klezmer bands in the world, the Klezmatics, who reside in New York and America. So the recording, the CD came out 3 years ago, and it got around the world, and people, Yiddish singers around the world still love it and sing it, and it's become internationally known within the Yiddish circles, people who sing these songs. And I feel really privileged and really pleased that you took on, this project and decided to teach a Yiddish song specifically, because Holocaust Memorial Day could turn to Hebrew songs, Israeli songs, all sorts of other Jewish material. And it's wonderful to be presenting a Yiddish song. Yiddish culture now is kind of in danger, and not many people know about the fact that 100 years ago, about 85% of East European Jewish population were Yiddish speakers, and they were singing these songs, and they were, this was their life. And still now, there are people whose life is within Yiddish music, Yiddish culture. I'm one of these people, and I'm really delighted that you're doing this. What else can I say? The melody is simple. It's in minor, which makes it easier, although in Yiddish music we have all these Jewish modes, but not in this one. The arrangement is not very difficult, and hopefully will be lovely to put together as a 4-part. The original 4-part harmony was created by Lawrence Klamberg, the lead singer of the Klezmatics, and I modified it slightly to be able to teach it to my choirs, primarily because I have my own 2 Yiddish choirs, and I teach around the world Yiddish workshops, and I decided to make it suitable. That's probably what I'd like to say. And one more thing, Yiddish culture is a living culture, and I'm very happy that by singing this song, we are making something that is in danger more alive and more the culture of the 21st century. So thank you very much, everyone, the organizers and everyone who wants to join this project.
Lovely. Thank you, Polina. Thank you. And thank you for joining us this evening. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. So I'm now going to hand over to Sandra, who's just going to talk a little bit about sort of the history of the languages, and then she's going to read out the words of the actual song that we will be doing. Sandra, over to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, lovely, thank you.
Great. Right, well, I expect lots of you have seen Fiddler on the Roof, either the musical or on stage or the film. So Fiddler on the Roof was the story comes from a book that was written in Yiddish. The original story was written in Yiddish in 1894 in what was then southern Russia and is now Ukraine. Now, how did that come about? That's that language was there. That's what I'm going to tell you about. So just to sidestep a little bit, the Jewish religion, as you may know, our holy book in the Jewish religion is the Old Testament. So the same Bible as in Christianity, but just the Old Testament, not the New Testament. That's also known as the Hebrew Bible, because it was written in Hebrew. And Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, not modern Hebrew. Today in Israel, they speak modern Hebrew. The Bible was, of course, written in biblical Hebrew. And I'm just going to put this right in front of my camera. This is what Hebrew looks like, which I hope you can see, but you're not going to have to learn that alphabet. So that's a bit of good news. Around the year 1000, a lot of Jews left the Middle East and settled in Western Europe. And then Yiddish was born, which was pretty well a mixture of the Hebrew that they brought with them and medieval German. A lot of them were settled in Germany. So this language was originally kind of a mixture of 2 languages, more or less. So they came to Europe, but it didn't actually work out that well because the Crusades, which I'm sure most of you have heard of, began in 1096, following which there were a lot of, unfortunately, massacres of Jews around Germany and France and so on. And so the Jewish population shifted east to the lands which are now Russia, Poland, Lithuania, Ukraine, Hungary, which at the time were more tolerant of minorities. And then the Yiddish language acquired some Russian and Slavic words. So it then became a further mixture of different languages into a language. Some of the Jewish people also spoke the local language, whether it was Russian or Polish, but Yiddish was very much spoken within their communities for business, for shopping, for schools. And Hebrew was considered a holy language that was just reserved for prayer in the synagogue. Now, most of the Yiddish-speaking communities were wiped out by the Nazis, who, of course, set out to destroy all of Europe's Jews, and didn't actually succeed, but they did actually destroy quite a large proportion. So now, does anybody speak Yiddish today? Well, some very religious Jews do speak Yiddish in their homes still. And I would say that most Jewish families have retained some words and expressions that have come down the generations. In Britain today, many Jewish people like me, and I think I'm probably speaking for Joe and Jane, but I'm not quite sure, are descended from Yiddish-speaking immigrants who came to this country in Victorian times, like between 1880 and the turn of the century. And that was because back then in the Russian Empire, the Jews were blamed for the assassination of Tsar Alexander II. And again, hostilities broke out, violent hostilities, and a few people left, although they were the lucky ones because they weren't then there when the Nazis came a few decades later. Anyway, so isn't that much spoken today, but you can do classes, which I've done. And there are people like Polina who are keeping the culture alive by performing the songs and so on that were written, and indeed even writing new songs and poems in Yiddish. So that was like my brief history. I'm now going to just have a look at the text review. I just run through the English first. So the song was actually written, the poem was written just before the Holocaust. It was actually, we think that the poet had actually written it because he'd actually lost a child, but because shortly after that, so many children were lost in the Holocaust, it's become a song with a wide meaning. So we have, who guides all the ships that sail across the sea? God guides all the ships that sail across the sea. Who sends the gentle winds that blow in the evening time? God sends the gentle winds that blow in the evening time. Who plays with the children and takes them close to himself? God plays with the children and takes them close to him. And who do we hear singing around us all the time? The little children sing in heaven all the time. Just looking at that third verse, by the way, I was talking to Polina about this afternoon. I personally think that's a mistranslation of the Yiddish. I think the third verse is meant to say, who plays with the children and takes some of them to himself. God plays with the children and takes some of them to himself. We're going to check that out. So just to read out the Yiddish so that you can hear what that sounds like. I'm going to read it from my book because that's a bit small. Wer führt die alle Schiffen, was gehen in einem Jam? Gott führt die alle Schiffen, was gehen in einem Jam. Wer schickt die linde Winden, was wehen offen Zeit? Gott schickt die linde Winden, was wehen offen Zeit. Wer spielt sich mit die Kinder und teilnimmt zu sich? Gott spielt sich mit die Kinder und teilnimmt zu sich. Und wenn man hört man singen, uns allemal. Die kleinen Kinder singen in Himmel allemal. So we'll have lots more occasions where, and I know Polina's recorded the words, but just to point out a couple of things, you'll see that some words end with en, like zingen, and you actually say zingen. And some words like schiffen don't end with en, they end just fn. And then that's not schiffen, that's schiffen, almost like one syllable. And the only other thing I wanted to point out, because I imagine lots of people know German, is it's not quite the same. So for example, in German, for little children, we would say die kleine Kinder, and here it's kleine Kinder, but you'll have lots of time to get used to all that. And then I'm handing back to Joe.
That's lovely, Sandra. Thank you so much. So yes, one of the things that we're delighted, and I will talk about it in the schedule in a minute, is that Polina is going to run one of our rehearsals for us, which is, we are thrilled that that's going to be happening. And Polina will very much be concentrating on the pronunciation of the words, the Yiddish, making sure we're getting that as right as we possibly can, and also the sort of feeling and the performance sort of side of the music, whereas Jane and myself will be sort of doing more of the note teaching, and then Polina is going to come in and polish us up so that we are as good as we can be. And this sheet music will be made available to you all after this evening's event. So if you wanted to get a head start on it over the Christmas and New Year break, you're more than welcome to. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to, bear with me. I'm now going to play a performance that Polina's choir did a few years ago. So it's quite an old performance, but it's just to give you the very first idea of what it can sound like. So bear with me. Oh, you've seen all my emails there. Okay, never mind. Oops. Right, here we go. So there you go. That's just it to give you an idea. So now I'm just going to briefly talk to you all about how it's going to work, the vision that we have. So the first thing that you'll probably be relieved to hear is that we are going to be asking for audio only recordings to be sent in. We felt that it was a bit much to ask you to sing in Yiddish and be able to look up at the camera at the same time. So we're going to be asking for audio only, and then we're going to be asking for still photos and short tiny little videos to be sent in for the visual side of the video, and I'll explain how that's going to work. So basically the still photos, we will send out obviously closer to the time more detailed instructions, but it will be something like we might ask you all to dress in red and black, for example, which I know is a colour that is often associated with Polina's choirs, and perhaps with a plain background behind you, and then a photo of you holding a lighted candle. So I think that's definitely one of the still photos we're going to ask for. We're also going to ask for you to perhaps send in literally 1 to 2 second videos of you actually lighting a candle. So we might use some of those moving images as well. And then the other thing we're going to do, so here we go, screen share again. I'm getting too confident, aren't I, with all this all this technical stuff. So the idea is that we're hoping to have some cards produced that will be produced as PDFs, which some of you will be able to print off at home or at work or whatever. And it will be photographs of people, you can see here, the people who perished in the Holocaust. Now, we're not going to have this small amount of biog writing underneath. The way they're going to be prepared is the names of the people and possibly the date or the age they were is going to be underneath. And we're going to ask you to have a photograph taken of yourself holding a card with the photograph and the name of the person. And we're going to use some of those stills in the video as well. I'm delighted to announce that Polina is going to record the solos for us for verses 2 and 4. You'll see when you get the sheet music that verses 2 and 4 has 4-part sort of harmony underneath and with a solo, and Polina is going to record the solos for us, and we're going to accompany those in verses 2 and 4, and we're hoping that we'll have sort of Polina in the center, sort of with the singing, and us all surrounding her with candles and things. So that's kind of the image that we've got in our heads for the video. So that, I think that's the most that we've sort of worked out at the moment, but I'm sure some of you might have some questions on that at the Q&A session. So then now just to talk about the schedule. It's going to be quite a tight schedule, so that's why we're going to release the sheet music if you want to sort of get a jump on the learning. So basically the rehearsals are going to start immediately after New Year, and the idea is going to be that the week starting the 4th of January and the week starting the 11th of January, we are going to run 2 rehearsals in each of those weeks, and those will be very much learning the notes, learning the harmonies, getting very familiar with the music, and as I said, then we are then going to have on Sunday the 17th of January, so this is the first definite date for your diary. We will let you know the other rehearsal dates as soon as Jane and I have worked out our diaries, but basically Sunday the 17th of January at 4:30 in the afternoon, we are going to have an hour session with Polina, who's going to, as I say, go through the pronunciation, the finishing touches, the polishing of the performance, and all of that side of things, and that will be the end of the rehearsal period. So there will be 5 rehearsals, 4 with Jane and I and 1 with Polina. And then submissions for actual audio recordings will open on the 18th of January and close at 11 p.m. on the 20th of January. So you can see there's a 3-day period to get your audios recorded and in, but we're hoping by giving you all this notice that you'll be able to block the day off, tell the rest of the family to go out of the house, leave you alone, and you can get your recordings done. So that's the schedule on that. But what we're going to do is we're going to open the submissions for the visuals, so for your still photos and your little videos, lighting cameras, on the 11th of January, so that we can get started working on the visual side of the video while you're still learning the music, and then the audio will come in separately. So there will be 2 submission dates, 11th from the 11th of January for your still photos, and from the 18th of January until the 20th for your audio recordings. So that's the schedule. And there are 2 other events we're going to run as well. So the week starting the 18th of January, so it's probably going to be either the 19th, the 20th or the 21st of January. Sandra is at the moment liaising with the Holocaust Education Trust. So she is we're going to hopefully get a Holocaust survivor to come and do a session where they're going to talk about their story, talk about their experience, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions and talk with them. And we felt this was really important to try and do. You can imagine what age a lot of the Holocaust survivors are now, and less people are getting the opportunity to actually meet somebody who experienced it and have the opportunity to ask them questions about their experiences. So we will let you know the date of that as soon as we can, so you can get that in the diary, because we obviously want as many people to come to that as possible. But it will be the week after the rehearsal, so you won't have to fit in rehearsals and this, that it will be the week after we've finished doing the rehearsals. So as I said, probably the 19th, 20th or 21st of January. And then the final thing that we're going to do is, and we don't have a date for this yet, we will let you know as soon as we can, it will be 27th of January or the week after, or the, you know, within the sort of 2-week period afterwards. We're going to close the project with a candle lighting ceremony, where we will ask everyone to come along, and we will all light a candle, and there is, Sandra, if I'm correct, aren't I, there is a sort of prayer's the wrong word, but the Holocaust Memorial Day Trust, it's been written for all faiths and no faiths, isn't it?
Yeah, there was a, yes, I've got that. There was a prayer written by, I think, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the chief rabbi, and a Muslim leader. And they wrote a prayer together for Holocaust Memorial Day, yeah.
Probably we'll read that out at the candle lighting ceremony, because it's, the idea is it represents the whole of humanity rather than one particular group of people, and so but we don't have the details of that, but that's how we will all finish the project, and together as a choir community, which I think we've really become over the last year. We've become a community, haven't we? And we'll have a candle lighting ceremony, and we'll let you know the date of that as soon as we can. So that's the schedule. What's going to happen now is I'm just going to ask Judith to talk very briefly about money. I know we hate to, but we have to talk about money. And then we're going to have a Q&A session. And then, as I said, when all the talking is done, we will then show the last film, which we will watch in our own spaces, and then the meeting will finish. So Judith, over to you.
Thanks, Jo. Thank you. I haven't got an awful lot to say, apart from the fact that, as you know, people are, it's not an obligation to donate to these projects, but people very kindly do donate, and we do need the donations because there are certain costs attached to this. So the lovely Rich has agreed to edit the project, as he has done our last 2. So we're very lucky to have him on board again. So obviously there'll be video editing costs and other costs associated with the project as well. So we are in a good position. We do need to raise a little bit more though. We had some surplus from the current project that we're running. There is some surplus, and we are going to be taking that over to this new project, which is good. But as always, if you can donate even a really tiny amount, because there'll be a few of you taking part, and it all adds up, and it's all really important to to be able to pay people for their professionalism, etc. So that's really all I've got to say, just to kind of put that out there. And if you are in a position to, we know it's difficult and the time of year as well. But if you're thinking, I wonder if they need any funds, yes, please. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Lovely. Well, that just leaves us now for the Q&A session. So I don't know if Judith and Derek, have you been keeping an eye on any questions that have come in and you want to read them out and we'll try and answer them?
There have been a few. Some people have said that they can't open the link, so I've saved those links. Polina, thank you ever so much for putting those on the chat. So I've saved those and I will be putting them on Facebook at some point. And I'm just having a look now. If anyone has a specific question that hasn't been answered. Oh, thanks, Alison. Where to donate? The bank account details that I put on a post a couple of months ago, but I will repost those details so that everyone has those. And I might I'll put them in announcements. I might pin them for a while as well. Thanks, Lena, as well. You've also asked about that. Yes, same bank account details. It will all come to me and I'll kind of distribute it accordingly. That's fine. Thank you for asking about that, everybody. There's quite a few. Non-financial questions. Are there any? Okay, thanks. Sorry, we've got Ocado just turning up, so the dogs are going to go crazy. So I'm going to mute myself. Very sorry about this. And there we go. If anyone has a question, pop it in the chat. And if Derek or Marcella, if you could have a look and read them out, that would be amazing. Thank you.
I think I saw one right at the beginning. Somebody put in about when will the sheet music be distributed?
Yes, so obviously I answered that in my spiel. There's a good word for your spiel. Yes, as the lovely Derek is going to put it up. His marvelous work as PDFs on the Facebook page. So he will be putting the music up as soon as he can, so you can start having a look at it. I'm kind of taking it as a compliment that we don't have any questions, because it probably means we've answered them all, which is terrific. Mention of non-members
needed.
Yes, yeah, yes. So we would welcome anybody who wants to be in this project to be in this project, and so we are broadening it out to anybody. We're not going to proactively go out and advertise it, but there are certain organisations that will find it. So a lot of Polina's singers, for example, will find out about it because Polina's involved. Various synagogues that some of us are involved in will probably get to hear, and there will be word of mouth. And I'm sure that many of you have friends, relatives or whatever who would like to be involved. So we are welcoming everybody because it's such an important project and awareness of HMD. And so all that somebody needs to do is request to join the Facebook group. And there will be a question in there. Derek, I don't know if I don't know if you know what the question is yet, but it's something about what project you're joining in or something like that. Is that right? Yeah. That's
going to decide in the next couple of days.
Yeah, and so they just answer the question that they're going to join for HMD, and then their membership will be approved. And then, of course, if they want to then carry on singing with us, that's marvellous. But obviously, if they then, after the project's finished, don't want to be in the Facebook group anymore, of course, they can leave. But it's open to absolutely anybody who wants to be involved. And that actually reminds me, the one thing I wanted to say, because I'd seen sort of one or two messages where people were a bit concerned about, I don't know if I'd be able to sing in Yiddish and a bit nervous, and they don't know if they want to put a recording in. The way that we feel about this project is that the project itself is almost as important as the end product, i.e. the video and the recording. And so if you just attend the rehearsals, maybe come to the Q&A session with the survivor or the candle lighting ceremony at the end, all of those things are part of the experience. And so even if you don't manage to get a recording in, or you only send your photo in, it might be you put a visual in, and you get a bad throat and you can't put the audio in. Hello?
Joe, I just think that if people are afraid to sing in Yiddish, they have the second and the fourth verses to sing oohs and ahs.
That's true. Yes. No, no, Polina, actually, that's a perfect suggestion. So if you're nervous about the Yiddish, just record yourself for verses 2 and 4, and then you'll be involved in the yous and ahs bit. So that's fantastic. Thank you, Polina. But I think what I'm just trying to say to everyone is you can be involved in this as much or as little as you would like to be. We welcome everybody, and it's all going on a journey together. So I think that's the most important thing. Any other questions before we play the final film?
One question, there's a primary teacher who asked if she could share this with the school.
Yes, I mean, you can share it with anybody that you want to. I mean, that's absolutely fine. I mean, obviously, perhaps we shouldn't tell Rich that if we end up with 10,000 recordings coming in, we might have to release the video for HMD 2022. But yes, the whole point of this project is to be inclusive. And to make people aware of HMD. So that's, you know, please invite anybody you feel that would be interested, and people who may just want to learn more about Yiddish and Yiddish music. Jane?
Yes, I was just going to say, and also if it helps in terms of learning, I'm going to do what I've done for the previous projects that we've worked on together, and there will be a learning guide for each part. So soprano, alto, tenor, and bass. There will be a learning guide for each of you, as you've got used to. And although I'm not a Yiddish expert myself, I mean I've got German A level, so I'm sort of partway there. And Polina has very kindly provided a guide so that I can check my pronunciation against hers, which is absolutely brilliant. And in terms of actually learning the Yiddish, actually quite a lot of the pattern of the song is repetitive. So it's actually not quite as bad as it looks in terms of how much you've actually got to learn. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Mm-hmm. There's basically one line to learn per verse.
Yes, exactly. And sort of like one word changes for the sort of the balancing answering phrase. So yeah.
And I'm just seeing lots of questions of people saying, well, what about, there are some people who don't like to use Facebook, and that's absolutely fair enough. My view is that all our rehearsals will be Zoom. And there will always be a Zoom link. So if you know of someone who would like to be involved with the project but doesn't want to join the Facebook group, then just share the Zoom the sign-in link with them, and they can then obviously still join in all the rehearsals. It's just obviously more difficult for them because obviously Judith does a sterling job of providing us all with the information in terms of submissions and how we do this, and if you're not in the Facebook group, you'll miss a lot of those announcements. But I suppose if you know someone who is in the Facebook group, they can always pass that information on. So, you know, just because you don't want to be in Facebook, it doesn't mean you can't be in the project. Absolutely not. You'll just have to have a Facebook spy for you to keep an eye on all the information and things to pass on to people. Well, I'm very conscious that we've already been an hour of your time, and I know people have got lots of things to do. So if there are no more burning questions, and if you think of something later, obviously Judith's going to put the recording of this up. So just put questions there and tag one of us. Thank you. Ping tag. One of us and we'll answer. So you know, if you've forgotten to ask something right now, we can always answer. So I think therefore at this point, as I said, I want to say thank you to everyone who has come this evening, and thank you to anyone who will be watching in the future, and thank you for taking part in this really important project. We look forward to seeing you at the first rehearsals in January. And I'm now going to share the final film, so I will take this opportunity, you know, and everyone to say bye-bye, and then we'll show you the film now. So thank you very, very much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Jo, as well, for putting all of that together, and especially to Polina for giving up your evening and joining us, and to Sandra and Derek and Marcella and Judith as well, and Jane. Thank you.
The 27th of January is Holocaust Memorial Day, the International Day of Remembrance for the victims and survivors of the Holocaust, Nazi persecution and subsequent genocides in Cambodia, Bosnia, Rwanda, and Darfur. It gives us an opportunity to reflect on the consequences of discrimination and persecution and learn the lessons of the past.
Between 1941 and 1945, the Nazis attempted to annihilate all of Europe's Jews. This systematic and planned genocide is known as the Holocaust. From the time they assumed power in 1933, the Nazis used propaganda, persecution, and legislation to deny human and civil rights to Jews. Jews were denied citizenship, forbidden to marry non-Jews, to own businesses, and to live in certain areas. The Nazis used centuries of anti-Semitism as their foundation. Nazi persecution extended beyond Jewish people, political opponents, the Roma and Sinti people, disabled people, gay people, Jehovah's Witnesses, Freemasons, and Black people were all targeted, and hundreds of thousands of people were murdered. By the end of the Holocaust, 6 million Jewish people had been murdered in ghettos, mass shootings, concentration camps, and extermination camps.
I was 16 years old when we arrived in Auschwitz-Birkenau. Within minutes, I got separated from my mother and 2 sisters. A few minutes later, I got separated from my father. I had no opportunity to say goodbye to them. And from that day onwards, I never saw them again.
After Auschwitz, Eugene was imprisoned at the Buchenwald concentration camp. He was forced to work in the tunnels at the Dora Mittelbau labor camp and was finally imprisoned in the concentration camp at Bergen-Belsen.
The scenes in Bergen-Belsen were terrible. There were dead bodies lying all over. The place was infected by typhus. I personally came down to 5 stone.
For 50 years, Eugene said nothing of his ordeals, but now he speaks regularly about the atrocities that he experienced in his youth. In doing so, he has joined a group of survivors who work extremely hard to make sure that the Holocaust will never be forgotten.
I've been speaking to universities, colleges, schools for 65 years, ever since I came over to this country in 1946. I've made numerous films about the Holocaust, particularly about Auschwitz, about my time on the Death March, and I have even taken some neo-Nazis back to the camp. It is very important that people understand what happened and learn something from what happened in the past, because we have no guarantee today that it cannot happen again. We believe it can happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time.
Sadly, in the years past since the end of the Holocaust, the world has seen genocide take place again and again. In the 1970s, the Khmer Rouge systematically evicted the population.
So I'm not sure what's happened, but we've lost the sound.
Yeah, Jo turned her sound off.
Sorry. My daughter was 9 when she died, and she died of starvation because I had not enough rice to give her to her. To look at your daughter slowly dying of starvation, this is really hard for a mother, and I will never forget this.
In Cambodia, the number of people murdered reached 2 million. In Rwanda, using little more than clubs and machetes, Members of the Hutu people massacred almost 1 million men, women, children, and babies who belonged to either the Tutsi people or moderate Hutus.
It was 10 o'clock in the morning when the militias come to attack in our house. And I managed to escape, just jumping through the window. But my family couldn't make it. I climbed the tree, which was in the backyard. I could hear the sound of crying and mourning inside the house. But unfortunately, a few minutes later, those sound has stopped. That's when I knew everybody was dead.
In former Yugoslavia, the Serbs targeted Bosnia in their wish for political domination. They were prepared to achieve this by isolating and even exterminating ethnic groups.
I was taken away together with my brother and the rest of the villagers, and I ended up in the Omarska concentration camp. During my stay in the Omarska camp, I was treated worse than a rat. My life was worth less than life of a rat. The worst aspect of being kept in the Omarska camp was the fact that the place was guarded by my former schoolmates, former neighbors, former policemen whose protection I relied before the war, and even former teachers.
But lessons remain unlearned. Genocide is still taking place today. Right now, in the Darfur region of Sudan, against a backdrop of civil war and with the backing of the Sudanese government, members of the Arab population are currently persecuting Black African farmers who they see as inferior people. To date, millions of people have been displaced and hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children have been murdered in Darfur. On Holocaust Memorial Day, we have a chance to think about what we can do to put an end to persecution and discrimination.
My hope for the Holocaust Memorial Day is for the people to learn about the genocide so that it won't happen again.
The more people commemorate the Holocaust on Holocaust Memorial Day, the more awareness there will be of the dangers and the more people will learn.
I hope that the Holocaust Memorial Day can inspire people, especially young people, to understand that they can make a difference, that one person can make a difference.
I want to ask young people, as they are the decision makers of the future, to learn the lessons of the past so that these crimes will never happen again.
My dearest wish and hope is for us to live in harmony, to respect each other, and learn to live and let live.
We all have the opportunity to use Holocaust Memorial Day to learn the lessons of the past to create a safer, better future.